Bo Parfet has horrible eyesight, but he can see things so clearly. He had all kinds of learning disabilities as a kid, and how he has turned those into his superpower, even though he was labeled so much when he was younger. He took all that and he turned it into his calling. His wife is a hospice nurse, and helped her perspective helped him with one of his biggest shifts, one of the most important days of his life. There are two he'll talk about, and this one is profound. And the perspective that his wife provided is absolutely incredible. But Bo did find his why. He also does something with his boys that, if you're a parent at all, you want to listen to this. I got a little bit emotional during this part of the conversation. And finally, he talks about the feeling and what he wants. Like the phrase he said was so impactful. I could tell he thinks about it a lot, how he wants to feel at the end of his life. Hello and welcome to Purpose Matrix. I am very excited for today's guest, Mr. Bo Parfet. Bo, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Phil.
Bo, this has been a long time coming. I'm really excited for this discussion. Gotten to know you over the last couple of years through different discussions on honestly all kinds of different topics, from leadership to philanthropy to setbacks and challenges to faith and much, much more. So I'm looking forward to this. And I don't know what direction this is going to go, but it's going to be fun. So I appreciate you taking the time. For our listeners, a little bit about Bo. So first, managing principal, head of growth at DOP Capital, a very large, over $5 billion, $5 billion with a B investment firm. Co-founder of Denali Venture Philanthropy. I want to hear more about that. A ski mountaineer. So you're going to have to explain what a mountaineer is to people, I think. And this 2026 Ski Hall of Fame, a 3 times, soon to be 4 times author, including Die Trying, The Precipice of Life and Others. International speaker, great guy, resides in Boulder, Colorado with his family and 2 sons. Bo, amazing track record, amazing background, really just a good resume. Was it always this impressive and everything went smoothly the whole time?
I wish I could say yes, but it wasn't. Like a lot of people, you have to get through a lot of tough times, and that's kind of where you figure out what you're made of. So for me, the first challenge that I was faced was in 2nd grade. I was really struggling to learn. Okay. So what they found out was I was dyslexic. I had, trouble paying attention, right? Called ADHD. And then the third piece is I had a speech impediment. So I struggled saying my R's and S's. Okay. And when you're going to school and you got these things, and it was very tough. And of course, I went to a school you had to read aloud every day. Okay. So as they went around the room and everyone had to read a paragraph, by the time they got to me in 2nd grade, I was sweating bullets, right? I was so nervous. And, I couldn't read. I mean, I just fumble through it and people would make fun of me. And it was a challenge. Absolutely. And my 2nd grade teacher told my parents that in 2nd grade at the parent teacher conference that I would never graduate high school.
Wow.
Okay. Now, Phil, I would love to tell you, I went home that night and said, hey, I'm going to prove him wrong. The truth is I went home and I cried my eyes out, and I did the next day and the next day. And then fast forwarding to 7th grade, I had some better news. I had a teacher tell me and my parents, hey, I've got some good news. Bo's going to graduate high school. I was like, yes, 5 years of grinding it out, working with a tutor, practicing. And then she goes, but not college. There's no way Bo can graduate college. I was like, oh man, come on. So I just kept kind of grinding away. And I got really good at math. I decided that, there's no words in math. I'm just going to get really good at numbers. So I practiced and practiced. So that was kind of building my confidence. I got really good at sports. And then things started to kind of click kind of my senior in high school. I started to get pretty good grades.
It's interesting
And then I also went, not only did I go to college, Phil, but I got 2 master's degrees, just because some of that adversity as a kid, really lit a fire in my belly and in my soul.
It's really interesting
that's
because
that's some of the adversity I faced. Yeah.
and I'm curious if you've looked into like statistics on dyslexia and ADHD, but regarding like how you learn and your approach to learning and understanding. I mean, literally this morning there's a reading test star reading test that the kids take at school, right? And my one son is more like me, which is similar to you. Although I will say I heard this not from Bo, but from someone at the conference that from an IQ level, Bo is completely off the charts, I think. So he's being very humble here. But you know, there's people that know math and science better than reading and writing. And I was explaining to my son, like, hey, buddy, I'm sorry, but you just may not be as strong at the reading and writing piece. But you know, we maybe got the math piece on our side, and that's okay. Everyone learns differently. But is there statistics, or do you have an understanding of ADHD, dyslexia, but like other things that are, because I think we can look at these things as things that hold us back or opportunities for ourselves, and it's all comes back to our mindset around these things versus the things themselves, I think.
Yep. There's a lot of research around, and we can Google it. So for the listeners, don't hold me to this exact statistic, but just roughly a third of CEOs are dyslexic. Roughly a third. That's a really high number. And what the underlying theme is, hey, I failed so much as a kid, right, in school, that I just got used to failure, and I got those strong calluses. So, hey, I'm willing to start a business because I'm not afraid of failure. I'm going to take it head on.
Yeah.
Right. And many dyslexic too you have to rely on other people to learn and figure things out. So our people skills are usually pretty good. There's a good intuition, which makes you a good leader. And you're constantly asking your team members, what do you think? What do you think? Right. And people feel listened to and heard. So from a leadership standpoint, it's actually great leadership training. If you can get through, the trick is to get through that tough part as a kid, because kids can be ruthless.
Yeah.
If you get through that, it's pretty good training.
Yep. Very interesting. So you did graduate, not just college, but then a couple more times. So then what? So you started at DLP, and the rest is history, right?
So some more failure, right? Let's just stay on the good stuff. So I got my MBA from Northwestern at the Kellogg School of Management. And I think I graduated, I was 29, and I started a business. And the business that I started was to buy apartments in college towns. Okay. And what we caught a pretty cool wave, and for those people that are listening, maybe there's some real estate people at the time, most of the student housing apartments was like a 2-bedroom there was one lease, just call it for $600.
Yeah.
Okay. So that means that one parent has to co-sign on the rent. Well, if your son picks kind of a Yahoo for his roommate and he doesn't pay the rent, those parents are on the hook.
Right.
So we were one of the first adopters of leasing by the bedroom. Okay. So, hey, instead of a 2-bedroom, 2-bath going for $600, we would say, hey, here's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. It's $400 a bedroom. Okay. Obviously there's a huge revenue pop, and we just did that as fast as we can. We also cut costs. There's a whole strategy there.
Right.
Fast forward, we grew that portfolio significantly. We were in about 5 states, a lot of different universities and markets, and we had a successful exit. So Phil, what I tell people, the good news is at 35, we had a successful exit. The bad news is at 35, we had a successful exit, right? It's good and bad. And I joke and say, hey, if somebody would have found me at 35 years old or 36 or 37 and showed me a deal on a napkin, I probably would have invested in it. And the mistake that I made, and I know I'm not alone because usually people respond back to me, is the discipline and rigor that it takes to grow a business and have an exit is very deep and very serious. But yet, as soon as you have the exit and have some dry powder in the bank, people then become really loose with how they invest. They don't keep that same discipline and rigor. And it's psychologically, I don't know why it happens, but a lot of people make that mistake, and I'm right there with them. So I made a lot of money, and then I lost a lot of money. And then, I had another nice kind of exit. I made a passive investment. It was kind of a big unicorn, but I had a small piece of it. So that was a cool thing. And in that journey, My wife is a hospice chaplain. Okay, she's a hospice chaplain. She does God's work every week in the hospital.
That's amazing.
And she said to me, Bo, God didn't put you on this earth to be a CEO. It's not why you're here. She said, why don't you write down what you really want out of life from a career standpoint? So I wrote down, I want to follow a CEO that's dynamic. I want to work at a growing company. I want to make an impact. I want to help single moms and single dads and kids and people that are working their butts off that are struggling to find a place to live. I want to be in real estate, right? I want passive income. And then she said, just pray on that list. And Phil, I still have the list.
Wow.
And then a month later, I went to this conference, this investor conference, and I heard Don Wenner speak. And he's the founder and CEO of DLP Capital. And that was 7 years ago. Yeah, go ahead.
And I want to focus in a little bit on your wife's perspective from what she did. The book, The 5 Regrets of the Dying, I think Bronnie Ware, who wrote it, so she was a hospice nurse herself. And the number one regret, and I talk about this, is that people didn't live lives authentic to themselves. And it seems like your wife recognized that. I mean, how blessed are you to have that, like, not from a book, but from the person that's seeing it from people maybe all the time. And I'll add that there's a study on this, separate study, I think Cornell did it, but 85%, if you look at last week's regrets, 50% are what we did and what we did wrong, and 50% are what we didn't do, what we didn't try. That's last week. If we look at our lifetime and we look back, 85% of our regrets are based on what we did not do, not living authentically to ourselves, and 15%, 15 only, are the actions that we took and we didn't do perfectly. So I'm just curious, I'm sure it seems like you're familiar with that book, and maybe you didn't even need the book because your wife told you directly, but just help me understand the perspective that your wife has from her job and her role, and how much that helped you make a significant change.
So, Phil, I believe that that God speaks through people. That's my belief. I'm, as you know, I'm a faith-based guy. I love my faith, love the Lord. And what helped me hear more of when the Lord is speaking to me through my wife or through a friend or a mentor is because I've had so many failures.
Yep.
Okay. And when you have so many failures, you're like, you're a little more sensitive and so she spoke to me. I'll never forget where we were and how she said it, but she, the Lord was speaking through her. It was also her experience. It was her soul talking to me. She saw me struggle for years on kind of what I wanted to do. And when she just said that to me, it just made sense. And a lot of us have the guard. I have a guard up at times, right? I don't hear feedback. I have the shield, but I work really hard to try to keep that shield down as much as I can every day and hear her wisdom. So, there's two types of pain in the world. There's the pain of discipline and there's the pain of regret.
Yeah. And
one of them weighs a heck of a lot more than the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I really subscribe to that. So, my wife has obviously hospice workers, hospice chaplains, they have a special gift, right? It's a calling. So when she gets into that mode, I just listen more closely. Mm-hmm. And she's just really good at it. So I feel, for those people that are listening, life's big 3 questions. Here are life's big 3. Number 1, where do you live? Number 2, what do you do? And number 3, who's your spouse? Think about who you marry. That's such a big decision, right? Yeah. It's half your DNA.
Yeah.
So where do you live? What do you do? And who's your spouse? Those are life's big 3. And thank goodness I've got all 3 in a good spot. But if you're missing one of those, I mean, it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
I talked to a guy the other day. He goes, "Gosh, I'm only doing 1 right now. 2 of them I need help on." So those are keying on those, everybody, to the listeners.
So you have failures, challenges, setbacks, right? And by the way, the pain of discipline, the pain of regret, it ties to this too. And I love that. Are you thankful for your failures, or are you regretful of your failures?
I'm thankful. I'm thankful for them. I'm thankful for them, but I still have some sadness, to be clear.
Yep.
Hold more than one thought, right? Equanimity is this great phrase. If you don't know what equanimity is, you can hold multiple thoughts, many thoughts at one time. So I do have some regrets and some sadness,
Yep.
for sure. But I learned a lot from them.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's such a powerful mindset, and I think I think the reason I ask that is as you're going through challenges right now, as you're going through setbacks right now, it's really hard to see why that is. But there's a bigger plan. You can usually connect the dots backwards and why that probably happened, or why I needed that, or man, I was, for me, not Bo, but I was a jerk, or I made these mistakes and I needed that, but you don't feel that in the moment, right? So if I look back a couple of years, some of the decisions and things like, I'm thankful for those because they're probably going to protect me in the future or help me grow for some reason or the other. So just, I encourage you as soon as you can to have that mindset as you're going through challenges and setbacks and failures. And I may be saying this because I need to remind myself of this so much personally. So I love that. And so a lot of failures, a lot of setbacks, a lot of challenges. You met Don Wenner, DLP. How did this fast forward? And then I want to hear that. I want to hear more about DLP, but I also want to get to this topic of what the heck is a Mountaineer, and
Yep.
philanthropic efforts that you're focused on too.
Okay, let's do it. So let's talk about DLP for a quick second. Let's land the plane. But I think there's some good nuggets here for the audience, because people ask me once a week, how do I find a career that is going to, fuel my soul, right? I'm not happy in this job. How do I find that best job? Or, hey, I was an entrepreneur, it didn't quite work. How do I find that next step? I get this all the time. So for those of you who are listening to this, don't miss this part, okay? So once you become clear, and usually, unfortunately, this is through a lot of mistakes. So don't miss this. The two most important moments of your life are, number one, the moment you're born, and then the moment you know why. And finding that out is a journey, okay? So when I found DLP, remember, I had that list that I put together, that I prayed on, that my wife challenged me on. And then I got to get a chance to get to know DLP. Well, DLP is solving the attainable housing crisis, or the affordability crisis. They're solving the loneliness crisis. They're solving the health and wellness crisis, the jobs crisis, the literacy crisis in America. We have the lowest fourth grade reading scores, I think, in the history of the US. So DLP, we are using our business as a platform for change, to fix things. So before DLP, I was just making a living, but now I'm making a life. And I'm at a company that's solving major problems in America, and we're solving those problems first. And it just so happens, if you focus on those problems, the profits take care of themselves.
Yep.
And when I started at DLP, we had about 650 million of assets. Now we've got almost 6 billion. And we also own a bank,
Yep.
a $2.5 billion bank. So there's over 8 billion of assets. When you combine everything, we're close to $1 billion in revenue, 1,000 team members, and it's an amazing company.
Yeah.
But I figured out my why, and it took me a long, long time to do it. So if you're on this journey, don't be discouraged, because it could take some time.
Yeah. And I think it's important to highlight that for you and for the whole, like, DLP is an amazing organization that leverages real estate in general as a platform for change. And that's what we're trying to do ourselves too, is leverage real estate to do good in many ways. That's our mission statement. And we want our employees to work within that based on what their professional purpose is, right? But no matter what your business is, because there's people that are listening that they're not invested in real estate. That's not their focus. There are some, and there are some that aren't. But they have a business, or they work at a company with other people involved. Like, that's for sure. So no matter what, I think the task is, whether it's there or if you're looking for a change. I love the Mark Twain quote too, which is the two most important days of your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. But if you're looking for that change, or you're just looking for what that is, there's people where you work. Perhaps you can use what you're doing now as a vehicle for good, right? It doesn't maybe a change is needed, but you can use what, like, the product itself is not probably the passion, but it gives you options for how it is a vehicle to your passion, I think. So that's how we think about it. I'm curious if
I
you
love
have
that.
thoughts on that. And I'm also curious, selfishly, for us in our company, you said some different things that I think I understand, but like the loneliness crisis. Tell me more about what DLP is doing there.
This is a good one to double click on. So don't miss this if you're listening. So a few years ago, it's funny if your ears are open, right? If your ears are open and you've got a full, clear eyes and full hearts, you can hear things. So a few years ago, we learned about someone in our community that had cancer, and he was in chemotherapy. Okay, so he stopped going to chemotherapy. Well, why did he stop going to chemotherapy? Not because it wasn't working. He actually had curable cancer. He stopped going because he was lonely. So we found out about this. We said, what's going on? He's lonely. He stopped doing. We can't have someone die at, So if you think about it, he was really saying, I'm just going to let myself die.
Yeah.
That's what he was saying, and that's what he was doing. So we rallied the troops at DLP and at the community level, and we said, who can help him? Who can bring him food on certain days? Who can help him with his laundry? Who can drive him back to chemo, right? So fast forward to today, this person, who happens to name to be Sam, is cancer-free and he's surrounded by friends, okay? But what we learned in this journey is about 30 years ago, the average American had 3 friends. Today, the average American has 1.5 friends. And the definition of loneliness is if you have 3 or less friends. So we have a loneliness epidemic in America. And don't miss this. This is a crisis. So we then now realized, oh my gosh, we need to solve loneliness. We never knew that we were going to, when we started kind of along this journey, that we'd be solving loneliness. We had no clue, right? But this here it is right in front of us. So we have to solve it. So we have a very cool whole strategy. There's a whole team now that's tracking loneliness at our communities, and we're solving it. One of the things that we have, as an example, would be an app. So an app that, you live in our community, you sign up to the app. Who likes to fish? Who likes to go for walks? Who likes to cook? Hey, I'm a single mom who can get health care. And we track the number of friendships made. We track the number of interactions and meetings. And as these lines go up and to the right, it just so happens that people stay a lot longer because they have a community.
I love this. We're trying to figure this out right now. Like this, I am selfishly, like my team is going to listen to this part of it for sure, because we are trying to figure this out as we speak. Like, how can we, of course, like I love you can just have an open ear. Like you don't know where people are on the loneliness spectrum, on the friendships spectrum, on the financial spectrum, on the faith spectrum, but just have an open ear. And, we're sometimes for ourselves, we're looking for all of this strategy on what we do, and we overcomplicate it. But if you have an open ear, now I do want to hear more about the app and some of that. Like my wheels are turning, so I'll call out my teammate Amy to help me think about this and figure this out for our communities. But
yep, and Phil, let's talk about that. Let's follow up on that. And what you're teaching the audience is, hey, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together.
yeah.
Okay. So we're happy to go together with you on this journey and help you solve loneliness at your communities too.
I appreciate that, Bo. And I will add here that we started late today because Bo was mentoring me and guiding me on, I think he took an extra at least 30 minutes before we hit record on some different strategies and topics. And it was amazing. He's a very giving guy. And Bo, I appreciate your mindset. So I knew we'd get on tangents, and I love every minute of it, but let's bring it back. So DLP is an amazing company and an amazing vehicle for good. Outside of DLP, let's talk about this mountaineering thing a little bit. I mean, this is like, you wrote a book called Die Trying, kind of around this concept, and I think it's almost happened, if I'm not mistaken, Bo. We didn't talk about that today at all, but why mountaineering?
So I grew up in the Midwest, right? Phil, you're in the Midwest too. and there's no mountains there. What's
He's
going
from the
on?
state up north, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's where that's where we go skiing, is where he, like, with the training grounds of Bo growing up in Michigan. And then he went out west to Boulder, where he's closer to the big mountains. But anyway.
Yep. So I think if you can ski in the upper Midwest, you can probably ski anywhere. And I think people say that about the East Coast too, which is also true. So I developed a love for the mountains. I was lucky enough where my dad took us out skiing twice when I was a kid. We went to Colorado, we went to Montana, and I saw the mountains for the first time, and it blew me away. I mean, and I'm not alone, because that's why that's why so many people move to the mountains, right? It speaks to you. It speaks to your soul. So just started climbing, went to undergrad at Colorado State University in Fort Collins, and started climbing right away. But if we want to go deeper, everyone, which is what Phil's show is about, and what I think he's trying to pour value into your audience is, and I don't often share this, but hey, let's go for it. Is the reality is I had a tough upbringing. Okay. Now remember, we're here to enjoy people's journey and not judge it. So I had my own challenges as a kid that were very difficult for me, but I'm also aware that other people had their own unique challenges. Okay. So I'm not comparing me to anyone else, because comparison is the thief of joy. But I had some things that I mentioned already on this show, and there's some things I'm not going to mention because they're just still too painful. But I feel like there's a big part of me, Phil, that's broken into a million pieces. And climbing is a way that I can start putting some of those pieces back together. So I love to climb because it helps me put myself back together, and it feeds my soul. And then because of my mentor, Don Wenner, who's the founder and CEO of DLP, and a gentleman named Lloyd Reed, they have challenged me to do more, to dig deeper. As Phil, as you can see, I have some pretty thick glasses on. So I have some eye issues, and I very likely could go blind later in life, okay, because of some issues with my eyes. So I have combined my passion for mountain climbing and my passion for philanthropy and bringing people from blindness to eyesight, okay? So last year, so examples are good. So last year, through a nonprofit called See International and the DLP Foundation, and with the help of Mark Batterson, who's the head pastor at National Community Church. He wrote Chase the Lion.
I'm reading it right now. Actually, awesome. I'm reading, Circle Maker, Chase the Lion, but also In a Pit with a Lion on a Snowy Day is the one I'm reading right now, I think. So I haven't read that, but anyway, I'm a big fan of Mark Batterson, so I digress.
If anyone is listening and those books that Phil just mentioned, I mean, I'd start reading those tonight.
I mean, okay? The Circle Maker is the first one. It is absolutely fantastic. So you just added 3 books to your reading list. I apologize. But Mark Batterson, he really has a way of storytelling and what he's doing. And anyway, jump in the pit with me here, Bo. Go ahead.
Yep. So I bumped into Mark, and as I think God had plans for us. So he just asked me what I'm up to, and I said, I'm just going to tell him. And I said, Mark, I'm headed to climb the north side of Mount Everest. I'm going to be one of about 100 or so people in the world who've climbed Everest from both sides, the Tibet side and the Nepal side. And just for those listeners out there, I don't know if it's 98% of people or 99 or 97, but most people who climb Everest climb it from Nepal. Very few people climb it from Tibet. That would be the north side. That's the side that I wanted to do. And, I wanted to bring about 5,000 people from blindness to eyesight. And so Mark Batterson and Don Wenner were like, well, what's going on? Tell me about it. So here's the quick math. There are about 2.2 billion people on the planet, with a B, 2.2 billion, that have some form of vision impairment. This is from mild to total blindness. There are 295 million people on the planet that have moderate vision impairment to total blindness. And then don't miss this. There are 43 million people on the planet that are totally blind. But here's what stopped me cold in my tracks. When I read this, my fingers froze across the keyboard. Most of those 43 million people are needlessly blind, meaning they don't have to be. Okay? And according to the International Agency of the Prevention of Blindness, most of those 43 million people can have their eye restored with a simple one-time medical procedure. In most parts of the world, Phil, it costs about $20. It takes 15 minutes and it's permanent. So don't miss this. This is the most single cost-effective surgical intervention in all of medicine. Right here, $20. You can give someone their eyesight back. I mean, are you kidding me? But then here, so Mark Batterson got excited about this. Don Wenner and the DLP Positive Returns Foundation got excited about this. I did a video on social media and feel it just took off. I had no idea what was about to happen. But here's the part that most people miss. For every one person who's blind, there are 5 people whose lives are adversely affected. So last year we brought over 50,000 people from blindness to eyesight, but really, when you add that 5x multiplier, it's 250,000 people's lives that were unlocked. And don't miss this. Our success, Phil, is somebody else's miracle. Our success is somebody else's miracle. And then something unexpected happened. People that I didn't know. I still don't know who they are. They started calling me, shooting me an email. Hey, you don't know us, but we heard from Mark Batterson, we heard from Don Wenner at DLP. We heard you on social media. We just wrote a big check for $20,000, $50,000 to organizations, and there are many of them that are doing this great work around the world. Isn't that cool?
I'm like, this is getting to me. How can people, I mean, I'll come back to this at the, like how people can find out about you, but specifically, $20 to change, to give that person eyesight and change 5 other lives. $100 is 5 people that can see and 5x that, right? $1,000, 20 people. How could people donate to that specifically and help 20 people see?
Here's the good news is there's a lot of nonprofits out there doing this work, okay? The one that I happen to use and really like is called See International. So See like your eyeball, okay? See International. They have a great website. They operate in many, many different countries. They have an endowment, which is great because to me that means they have staying power, right? They don't have to raise money every year just to stay afloat. They have a pretty good size endowment. And Don Bell, who is the CEO of See International, is a good friend of mine. And many people will donate through their website. And it's tax deductible, everybody, which is so super cool. But there are also a lot of other organizations. And some people have their own. They go, Bo, you know what? I used to donate to one 10 years ago. I forgot all about it. I'm going to go back and donate to the one that I know. Okay, great. I don't care, right? Let's just make the impact, right? And here's the great thing. Here's what I learned is when you do stuff like this, you let your fruit grow on other people's trees. Okay? The Bible says be fruitful and multiply.
Yeah.
So when you inspire other people and they go and inspires them to give to organizations that maybe you know you'll never know, you're having a major kingdom impact on the world.
Yeah.
And that's pretty darn cool.
Man, this has been a couple other things I want to point out is, first of all, I did an episode. It's one of the most engaging episodes where I got really authentic and vulnerable, honestly. It was called Broken, and there's a whole story behind that. But for the listeners, if you haven't listened to that episode, but you know, when Bo said broken into a million pieces, I mean, look, if you're human and you're listening to this, you're broken in different ways, and it's okay, right? So don't beat yourself up over it. Recognize it. Keep working on yourself. Keep growing. But don't beat yourself up too much over it, because we all have those things, right? The other thing I want to point out is when you think about your career shift and what you're doing and the vehicle is, I've heard this said different ways, but I look at it as 3 concentric circles on how I really find my career purpose and what I want to do. One is, what are you really uniquely skilled at? What are you really, really good at? The second one is, what are you passionate about? And a different way to say that is, what really breaks your heart? And I think blindness is near and dear to your heart, Bo, because of your own physical condition, what you have and what it could be, and then seeing that alive in too much in 43 million other people. So that's the second one, is what are you passionate about, or what breaks your heart? And the third one is, what does the world need? How does it serve something bigger than you, or bigger than you, whether that's others in the world or God, right? Those are the three concentric circles that I think about. From, Good to Great talks about it. The Japanese Ikagawa, Matthew Kelly talks about it. There's a lot of resources that I've kind of reconciled into those three. So I love how you're combining your skill set of, honestly, not even skill set, but your math and investment. I mean, you guys, Bo is a wizard on math, investing, finance, an absolute wizard. You don't be the head of growth for a almost $6 billion company if you're not, and he's being humble about it. Combined with his passion, what breaks his heart, and he's just his philanthropic efforts in serving the world and serving God too. So absolutely amazing. I just wanted to go on those tangents, but I appreciate it, Bo. Tell me what are you really excited about right now? Like, what just is getting you, like, you're just so excited about where you're going, what you're doing specifically?
So there's three things I'm excited about. The first one is, I have an amazing wife who I mentioned before, who's a hospice chaplain. She likes to go to a new country that every year she gets older, right? So my wife is 49 and she's been to 49 countries. So I'm going to take her to Switzerland this summer, and I'm really excited about that because it's one of her dreams to go to travel. She loves to dream. Her dream is to travel and try new things and go to new countries. So I'm so excited to spend some quality time with my wife this summer. The second thing is I do 2 rite of passages. I have 2 boys. So when they before high school, I take my boys on a rite of passage, and then I organize that one. And then before they go to college, we do another rite of passage, but they organize that one. They get a budget, they plan it, they do the whole thing.
So 2 each.
Yep,
right.
2 each. Yep. And those are just big seasonal shifts in their life, and I want to make sure they're prepared to how are they going to be an adult and a strong man and a caring man and a good person. So I need to equip them on those journeys.
Tell me that journey, like 30 seconds on, like what, give me an example of one, where you're going, what you're doing, what you're talking about. Give me a little bit of the context.
Yep. And if anyone is interested, they can reach out to me or to Phil, and Phil, I'll send you the structure that I'm using. But at a very high level, so we're going to go to Kilimanjaro, and we're going to climb Kilimanjaro. A rite of passage has to be an adventure, okay? And it has to be a multi-day adventure. It doesn't have to be Kilimanjaro. You could go in the Grand Canyon or go in a national park, whatever. So we're going to go and climb Kilimanjaro. And then I write him 2 letters, and he writes me 2 letters. Okay? For example, what does it mean to be his dad? How important that is for me to be his dad, and what an honor that is for me. He'll say something about what has it meant for me to be his dad. And then my second letter is, what does it mean to be a man? Okay? And to make the world a better place. He needs to hear that from me and what that looks like. And then the second letter he's going to send me, I don't know, you can't look. So no peeking, dads. You can't look at that last question. Okay? And then I have adults in his life, his teachers, his coaches, grandparents. They do a video. They do a 1 to 3 minute video on what they think of our son Mo. His name's Morrison, but he goes by Mo. So then, and they'll also write letters. So every day he's going to read 1 or 2 letters from an adult in his life, and watch 1 or 2 videos from adults in his life. And then at the end, once we get up and down safely, then I will give him a gift, and this one will be a watch, right? Because the analogy there is, Mo, most of your life you've asked me what time it is and what we're doing, but I'm now giving you a watch because I want you to start being able to tell time yourself, and I actually want you to become a clock builder, and at some point you'll build your own family, okay? And you got to carry on this legacy. I'm getting emotional now as I'm talking about it. So that's a little bit of the framework on what a rite of passage is for us. And just to be clear, there's a lot of right ways to do it. Right. So if what I just said doesn't land with you, we'll go create your own.
Wow. I'm red in the
Okay.
eyes. You got
Isn't
me.
that cool?
That's amazing.
All right.
That's
So
amazing.
we did family.
Yeah.
We did my wife, family,
Yep.
and then the third thing is DLP is a really cool organization, as I've talked about. This is our ministry. This is our platform for change. And I believe that in the next 5 to 10 years, DLP will be over $100 billion company. So over $100 billion of total assets. And I think we'll have made a meaningful dent in the housing crisis, the loneliness crisis, the health and wellness crisis, the literacy crisis. And I think we also, for people that are interested and they want to reconnect with their faith, if they don't, that's okay. Remember, we're here to enjoy people's journey, not judge it. But we also baptize people at our properties, right? People that just want to reconnect with their faith. So we hope to do a lot of baptisms over the next 5 to 10 years too.
Wow. Absolutely incredible. I mean, Bo, this has been so much fun. And, just these discussions, like I'm so blessed to get to have these discussions. Like I have an excuse to spend well over an hour with you. Because I talked about just our discussion pre-call. So I'm so appreciative of the time and the wisdom shared with
thanks for having me, Phil.
myself and the listeners. If you step back and reflect, think about what you're doing, what you've done, how does what you do, how does it make you feel?
Well, I want to get to heaven exhausted. And we're here just a short amount of time. I heard one of my mentors 2 days ago said to me, Bo, if you thought 38 to 48 went fast, wait do you see how fast 48 to 58 goes? And I said, ooh, that is so good. So how does it make me feel? It makes me feel energized. I want to get to heaven exhausted, and there's a lot of work to be done. So my kind of jam right now is eat healthy, be healthy. Longevity is super important, but the main fuel comes from serving others, right? So that's kind of how I would answer that question.
I love it, Bo. How can people find out more specifically about you, what you're doing? Where do you want to direct them?
Well, you're more than welcome to, I have a website, boparfet.com, dlpcapital.com. You can reach out to me in either one of those platforms. Happy to help people in real estate or personally. So I'm honored to be here and serve and help, and Phil, you're a gem. Thanks for having me. What a great show.
This has been awesome. I've enjoyed this so much, Bo. I'm so appreciative of your time. Gosh, I could just go through we went all over the place and covered so much in not much time at all. So I'm just so appreciative. And you know what? Share this episode with somebody. I mean, more people have to hear this. Like, please share this episode with somebody that you think this is going to connect with. Maybe whatever piece of it. I mean, we talked about 8 different, I can't even keep track of what we just talked about. It's so good, but share this with somebody that you think it can have an impact with. Maybe they're thinking about a career shift or a career change. Maybe they're wanting to be philanthropic. Maybe they just need to go find out what Bo's doing, and just share this with somebody that you think it can have an impact with. I'm so appreciative of you, the listeners. Bo, I'm so appreciative of you coming on, spending the time, bringing so much value. For the Purpose Matrix, signing off.